talking about Nana has been a daunting thought. The 2006/2007 anime adaptation of Ai Yazawa's manga is a highly revered classic with a loyal fan base. I had only just watched it for the first time recently, and as I found myself talking with friends who have loved it for years, I kept trying to wrap my noggin around what I could possibly add to the conversation about Nana. I haven't ever been a young woman, much less a young woman living in Japan, much less a young woman living in Japan circa Y2K. There's a lot of context I just simply haven't lived. And I feel that a lot of Nana's resonance and potential meaning is derived from how audiences can relate to it, how it can feel so handcrafted to be relevant and real to each individual viewer, especially as a way to process the situations and pains many women go through from adolescence to young adulthood. So I'm not going to argue that everything I'm saying is what the author meant, but rather my response to Nana, a series that I think is flawed but beautiful and heartbreaking, an unfinished anime adaptation of an unfinished manga, and possibly one of the most realistic modern tragedies ever put to pen. The story of two young women named Nana, and how their lives tumbled into turmoil because of The Con. The Con is a 2007 album by indie rock band Tegan and Sara. The band's frontrunners and namesake, Tegan and Sara Quinn, are twin sisters. And, like with their previous albums, they each wrote their own songs for The Con separately, and then later showed up at recording sessions with their lyrics mostly complete. Each sister gave a voice to their own private pains and experiences, which later joined together in a track list that was more serious, raw, and vulnerable. Tegan had just experienced the end of a 5-year relationship, one that she had started back when she was 19. Now in her mid-20s, a lot had changed, but also the past echoed forward. While writing The Con and likely still seeing the after images of her previous relationship, Tegan found herself caught in a new relationship.
I was amazed and terrified and saddened, but also excited and totally mystified at how it was possible at 26. I was feeling the same things I was feeling at 19. How is it possible that I still haven't learned something, that I'm back in the same place, suffering and tormented?
And both twins were also grappling with loss after the passing of their grandmother.
She was like a second mom to us. We'd never had anyone that close to us die. So The Con was very dark. It was very much about reflecting on getting older and long-term relationships and the end of things.
The Con is one of my favorite albums from one of my favorite bands. Something about their music and vocals and lyrics, it all works for me as this timeless media I can keep revisiting and reconnecting to. And recently, in a certain half-awake state, after sleeping for like 3 hours, I woke up in the morning with a Jimmy Neutron brain blast. The Con would be how I talk about Nana. By the way, I'm gonna use Hachi for Nana K and Nana for Nana O, if that's cool. So, we find out Hachi is a young woman who is a bit aimless and adrift. She's following Shoji's shadow, trying to be more independent and self-sustaining as a means to an end. The end being a reunion with a man she thinks and believes and maybe really actually does love. The first core group we see Hachi with is the collective of Shoji, Jun, and Kyosuke. Those last two especially have a real passion for art, which we see continue months later into the series. Then there's Nana and her band Blast. While becoming a musician is a wild dream, they have the talent, and they have put in the necessary dedication to make it a possible way of life moving forward. But Hachi was never really goal-oriented, at least not in the way that would lead to a fulfilling career. In fact, Nana even had to explain to Hachi why it's important to find a job that would suit her personality. As Hachi hops from job to job in the series, none of them really stick. She might like one job more than another because with one job she has an attractive boss, or with another job she gets to wear cute outfits. But these jobs don't really mean anything to her. Hachi says that she wanted to be like Nana, and I think at least part of that is that Hachi wanted to find something to drive her forward, to give her life a feeling of purpose that she and others would find valuable. And since she couldn't find that thing, Every time her house of sticks would blow down with the wind, Hachi packed up, found the next thing, and away she flew.
Flew home, back to where we met. Stayed inside. I was so upset. Cooked up a plan so good, except I was all alone. You were all I had. Love you. You were all mine. Love me. I was yours, right? I was 19. Call me.
While Hachi didn't have a particular dream job, the idea of success was still very appealing. As a kid sitting in front of the TV, she would see celebrities and think about how they lived in this different world from herself and from her family. She didn't know that so much of fame and celebrity culture is a sham. We see it play out with Blast, how behind-the-scenes deals by large record companies send scandals over to news media, all as a publicity stunt to promote the newest single or album. Everything becomes carefully constructed PR, even down to Ren's potential marriage to Nana. Everything becomes a marketing ploy. There's that notion, especially persistent in the American dream, that grand success is widely attainable if only you just work hard enough. Blast certainly has worked hard, but they also got luckier than most bands ever will. And even when you do find yourself in that 1 in a million spot to make it big, you may have to become pawns in a larger money game and go along with the con to realize that dream. Backroom politics and selling out pave the road, but what Hachi sees is the glimmering gold. She isn't like Shoji, who has it made and never struggles for money. No, when Hachi first enters Takumi's suite, her eyes sparkle, and she says she could die here a happy woman. With that kind of money, she could have nice things and never have to worry about bad jobs or not being able to pay the rent. With that kind of money, she could smile and say, "I've really made it. Here I am."
I am moving past this, giving notice I have to go. Yes, I know the feeling, know you're leaving, calm down. I'm calling you to say I'm capsized, erring on the edge of safe. When I feel like this, when I get so sick of myself, where are you going then? Without me, not knowing then that we're slowing down. You've got to turn right around and tell me that I'm taken then. Tell me if I'm yours.
The series stresses this tension. Should you pursue your dreams, even if it might require great sacrifice and great pain? Only, in the end, for it to possibly not even feel like it was worth it. Or should you abandon your dream, live without that long-term goal, but instead simply prioritize your happiness? And rather than tell us whether it's your dreams or your happiness that's better, I think the writing in Nana shows that, past a certain point, even this choice is an illusion. Because you could end up with a bit of both. Or you could end up with nothing, and live a life where you are neither happy, nor could say you have achieved any dream. Also, maybe not all dreams are the same. For Hachi, there were no career aspirations. The idea of wealth and the security of total financial stability was appealing, but that isn't something you can just snap your fingers and get. No, what Hachi felt was even more important than liking your job was love. Nobu says that when you fall in love with someone, you want everything from them. And in an earlier episode, Takumi says that he wants Hachi all to himself. Nobu and Takumi are very different characters in very important ways, but both of them describe the desire of love as a desire to possess, either for complete attention or complete control. Meanwhile, there's Nana, who doesn't think it's possible to ever entirely possess another person. But she avoids this truth, because she knows that realizing it makes her feel lonely. The person that she loves most is Ren, but she's also jealous of him, and she doesn't want to have to give up on her own dream to be with him. And then there's Yasu, who Nana knows is in love with her, but he's more like a brother to her. Maybe, but it's also confusing. Wanting love is painful when you are lonely or your love goes unrequited. But being in love can also be painful. For Hachi and other characters in Nana, finding love is a way to fill that empty void. These aren't silly flings. Hachi straight up says that she would have thrown herself into the river that night Shoji broke up with her, and that the only thing that stopped her was that she had her friend Nana by her side. Many of these characters want to feel needed, to the point where the other person would look them in the eyes and say, "I can't live without you. I need you. I want to die with you. You alone are the one that I want."
I want your lungs to stop working without me. I think about writing you. I thought about calling you. What was I looking for? What am I looking for? I know I hold this pain in my heart forever. I miss you now, I guess, like I should have missed you then. I can't untangle what I feel and what would matter most. And I'm not proud that nothing will seem easy about me. But I promise this: I won't go my whole life telling you I don't need.
While he was dating Hachi, Shoji would visit Jun and Kyosuke, get drunk, and then complain to them about Hachi. He told them that Hachi didn't really love him for who he was. Rather, what she loved was that he was in love with her, that Shoji needed her. Jun and Kyosuke go back and forth a bit on this, saying it might be true, it might not be true. Shoji and Hachi clearly don't know each other that well. But even acknowledging that, there was something Shoji said while eating with Hachi that I thought was curious. While Hachi is complaining about her job, Shoji remarks with surprise how angry and excitable she is. And maybe he's only surprised by this because this isn't the Hachi that he's used to. Also, a friend of mine brought up that if he's at that stage where he's cheating and going behind Hachi's back, picking these things out about her might make him feel better about himself. By making Hachi seem worse, he might be able to more justify his own actions. But still, I wonder if it reflects an attitude Shoji might have about women in general, especially women he's interested in, if the quieter Sachiko is any indication. To me, it feels like Shoji doesn't like Hachi having these kinds of strong reactions to her job. Reactions that, to me, seem pretty normal, the kind of thing that she might want to vent with someone she's close to. Part of me wants to say that Shoji is being a misogynist who wants women to stay quiet and meek, to be seen but not heard. However, I have to acknowledge I have a bias. I really don't like Shoji, so maybe that's a bit of a reach. But you know who almost certainly is a misogynist? Good old Takumi. While talking with Layla about the idea of separating the business side of their band from their own personal feelings on the people involved, he suddenly shouts at her and says that the way she's talking is, quote, "what I hate about you women." Even if Layla made some good points, Takumi was quick to lash out at what he saw as emotional weakness in a woman. And in his relationship with Hachi, we see him taking control away from her, making choices on her behalf, seizing her phone and locking her in a room, restricting her access to visiting friends, and even at one point making sexual advances on Hachi when she clearly was not interested and appeared to be in distress. And in that moment, Takumi says, "I can't stand that another guy was inside you. Just focus on making me happy." I think it's pretty easy to see Takumi as an embodiment of toxic masculinity. He's an awfully self-serving person, but he's also very obvious with it. And I think that the influence of rigid gender expectations may run deeper through the series than just with some offhand comments from Shoji or the obviously controlling behavior from Takumi. Around the midpoint of the series, Hachi had internalized the idea that sleeping with Takumi made her a slut and an easy lay. She saw this as a loss of purity, and as such, she felt that the only other person who could understand her and forgive her would be Takumi himself, her partner in crime. Note that she does not apply this degree of shame or condemnation to any man's sexual activity, including when Takumi is doing the exact same thing, but with more partners. And this low self-worth and feeling of resignation was one of the factors that led to Hachi staying with Takumi. Then you have Nobu, who couldn't even imagine that Hachi would ever sleep with someone she wasn't dating. Sheen literally had to explain to Nobu the basic idea that women can feel lonely and that they also have sexual wants. On the subject of Nobu, for a while he stayed away from Hachi because he felt he couldn't beat Takumi. In his mind, he kept framing this as a competition, man against man, for the prize of the woman's love. It was about measuring up. Nobu used to act tough and strong for his girlfriends. But when he confessed his love to Hachi, he admitted that now he thinks that was stupid. He admits that he feels he's an unmacho, girly guy. But he promises he will do anything for Hachi, as long as she is also supporting him too. The version of love that he's putting forward is far more equitable and balanced, where each of them plays the role of both supporter and benefactor. Before this, Hachi expected men to spoil her and be there for her, not the other way around. And now she thinks that maybe that was her mistake all along. As I watched the series, I just kept thinking about how restrictive traditional gender roles may have been playing a large factor in the pain these characters are experiencing. The more women are silenced, or meant to feel shame for their sexuality, and the more men feel like they have to be these stoic and distant protectors, the less room there is for mutual affection, honest communication, and the freedom to live authentically. Many young women feel pressured to change a part of who they are to match what their boyfriend is into, like how Nana changes things about herself to match Ren, from how she swaps her brand of cigarettes to how she wears the same combat boots he does. And the idea of being an unmarried woman is so looked down upon culturally that Hachi mocks a higher-up at work for being 38 and not married, calling her an old maid, as if being single and female was one of the worst possible outcomes. Of course, all these things that I'm talking about tap into a broader context outside my reach, as I'm talking about a fictional representation of a Japanese culture and society that I haven't been a part of. But I do think it's fair to say that Hachi's life has been made harder by the shame she feels about her own sexuality and how she feels like her options are more limited. That makes what's going to happen next feel more acceptable to her, maybe even like it's a good thing. Hachi feels that she needs something, or someone, to save her from this. And so the wishes in her heart become a distress call, a yearning SOS.
SOS to my mother, take the hinges off the door. I feel the knife going in. I'm feeling anxious, not enough to kill me. I thought it'd happen fast. And I'm feeling directionless, yes. But that's to be expected, and I know that best. In creeps the morning, and another day is lost. You've just written wondering, and I reply fast. All you need to save me, call. And I'll be curled on the floor, hiding out from it all.
Hachi's pregnancy is a devastating turning point in the series. While she kept admitting to herself that it might be better if Takumi never contacted her again, she continued to see him, and we find out later that they were having sex without protection. It's really easy for me to say that Hachi should have left Takumi, to scream at the TV and wonder why would she ever stay with a guy like him? But Hachi was at a low point, and had previously stated that being with nice guys was worse, because when it ends, she feels like it hurts more. Meanwhile, if you settle for a less caring but predictable man like Takumi, it might feel more stable. She wouldn't get her hopes up and have them dashed if she never expected much out of the guy in the first place. And also, if she has such a low self-image and feels like she's rotten in some way, she might start to think she deserves someone like Takumi. And she might not want to be vulnerable and honest around someone like Nobu, who may not understand her and might be disappointed in her. And once Hachi finds out that she's pregnant, the deck is stacked further in Takumi's favor. Regardless of who the biological father is, Takumi vows to protect Hachi and the baby and support them financially, in ways that Nobu simply could not. Takumi is in a very successful band, and Kyosuke speculates that he also might have come from a rich family. If Hachi goes with Nobu, he would have to quit Nana's band, and even then it might not be enough unless Hachi makes a form of income too. Meanwhile, Takumi can afford the absolute best care for Hachi and their child. And she does want the child, whether it's because of maternal instincts or a sense of duty, or feeling like being a housewife and mother would be a good life for her, or maybe the realization that a child would love her and need her in a way that no one else could. In any case, she was going to be a mother. Takumi says that what's cute about Hachi is that she can still dream without getting depressed, that she knows reality from fantasy. Hachi can settle with marrying Takumi and raising their child. It's a role she can accept. It's also a role her mother recommends. It's the scene that lingers with me the most. Hachi's mom telling her that Takumi must be so stressed and tired from working in the entertainment industry, that Hachi could be his refuge and relaxation from it all. So she should put all of her energy and focus and being into living for her husband. It was time to submit to that role, have children, and get married.
I married in the sun, against the stone of buildings built before you and I were born. And to my heart, confusion rose against. The muscles fought so long to control the pull of one magnet to another magnet. I just want back in your head. I'm not unfaithful, but I'll stray when I get a little scared.
So, were Hachi and Nana ever in love with each other? This is a really tricky topic, and I believe you can read the situation a few different ways. I know that I'm still going back and forth on it myself. I think there's too much evidence to immediately discount it. Hachi and Nana both wonder what things would be like if they were lovers. Near the end of the series, Hachi wrote what Nana called a love letter to her, and in the future, she thinks about Nana every day and keeps calling out her name. In episode 30, you have Nana saying all of this about Hachi.
Everything you do blows me away, just like that typhoon. I feel like a teenage boy falling in love for the first time. I can't fight this anymore. I think I'm gonna burst.
There is just so much you can read into. The references to rushing water, the way she feels like a teenage boy rather than a teenage girl. Again, it's enough that I think you can support a reading where the two friends were, in fact, in love with each other, whether or not they were sexually interested in women overall, or specifically in each other. And if you take that view, especially in light of what I mentioned earlier with rigid gender norms, Nana can act as a cautionary tale, warning about compulsory heterosexuality and heteronormativity. In other words, if same-sex relationships were normalized and felt like a real option, Hachi and Nana might have pursued that instead. Maybe if they ditched Takumi and Ren and instead fell into each other's arms, we'd have a happier ending. I would like to think that. But then I remember that those two girls both have issues with dependency, identity, and jealousy. And putting those two together might not fix everything. On a related note, there is this Twitter thread, which I've linked in the description, that gets into the complicated connections between some shoujo anime and manga culture and modern-day yuri or shoujo ai. The thread in question is about Liz and the Bluebird. And the TLDR is that sometimes mangakas will use what appears like a love story between young women as a metaphor or representation for something else, like a broader sense of adolescence or longing. I also don't want to invalidate or disregard the reality of close female friendships, which may be intimate without being sexual or romantic, or they might be sexual and blur the lines. I've spoken with friends who connect to Nana in this way, and the friendship between Hachi and Nana reminds them more of a really close female friendship rather than a couple. Maybe we can all find common ground here, that Hachi and Nana were really important to each other, really cared about each other, and really liked each other. They were so happy when they could be together. And among all the tragedies in the series, and there are many in Nana, one of the biggest is what happened to that connection. It was like a death from 1,000 cuts, where insecurities, jealousies, secrets, and now an unplanned pregnancy were pulling them apart from each other and taking them to places from which they may never come back.
I took the train back to where I came from. I took it all alone. It's been so long, I know. Imagine me there, my heart asleep, with no air, begging, "Ocean, please, help me drown these memories. All I need to hear from you is that you're not mine. You're not mine."
Hachi believes in a type of fate or destiny. How else do you explain two young women named Nana, who are the same age, taking the same train to Tokyo on the same day, meeting each other, and then shortly after showing up to rent the exact same apartment? How else do you explain making up an imaginary secret girlfriend named Sachiko, only for her to manifest in reality and steal your man? But personally, I think of this more like Nana does. That there isn't really fate, only coincidence. And when things are said to happen for a reason, it's because actions have consequences. Whether systemic consequences outside of your control or the personal actions you take. If you don't change your path, you will create your own fate. Hachi wasn't destined to be with Takumi, but by not choosing to break it off, that became her fate. And even if Hachi says that she's fine, and that she's happy, I can't escape the feeling that she really isn't living her best out there, but instead has resigned herself to a life that is neither happy nor a dream come true. Nana says that humans are hopeless creatures, that the harder we struggle, the more we sink. You might even start to wonder why we should even try to form those connections if it's just going to lead to heartbreak anyway. But you can fight Nana with Nana, because she's also the same person who said that even if love causes pain, it was not a waste. Those moments shared with love and joy mattered, and they can't be taken away later by the heartbreak, especially if we don't let the sorrow take over. Nana is a series full of secrets and traps, illusions and deceit. Hidden tactics behind success and fame, socially constructed limitations and biases that put people into narrower lanes, and goals that you live your whole life pursuing that you might end up feeling were beside the point when what mattered most was lost along the way. It's the lies that we tell other people, but it's also the lies we tell ourselves. I believe that becoming aware of these things can lead to growth and understanding. And then you can start to make choices that are right for you, in the moment, even if you don't have all the rest quite figured out yet. I know that I don't want to end up like Hachi, stuck in a life that she smiles through, but it's like a path of least resistance. I don't want to live inauthentically. I want to see past the con.
So I conned. I lied. I lied to me too. Call. Break my own heart. Maybe I would have been something you'd be good at. Maybe you would have been something I'd be good at. But now we'll never know. I won't be sad, but in case, I'll go there every day to make myself feel bad. There's a chance I'll start to wonder if this was the thing to do.